Welcome in everybody to this week's edition of Valpo Basketball Weekly, brought to you by Tire Barn Warehouse with the head coach Mary Evans. Brandon Vickery with you. And Coach, you've had some time to look back and review the games this weekend. So before we jump into some more specific questions, just maybe what's your takeaway from the games this weekend?
Overall, thought we did a lot of things well. We played two really talented teams, two teams that have a really good records right now, and two teams that are, when you look at the RPI, are ranked in the top 100. And I think that there were periods of both games where we played really, really well. We just have to learn how to beat those teams, and that's kind of the next step in our process of getting this program to where we want it to be. We've learned how to beat teams that we're supposed to beat, and we're beating them by the margins we're supposed to beat them by. Now we have to figure out how to be able to beat those teams that are just a little bit above where we are.
One thing I thought improved as the weekend went on was the defensive rebounding. 11 offensive rebounds for Illinois State in the first half on Friday, and then 6 total in the next 3 halves for the opponents the rest of the weekend. What are the keys in terms of getting those rebounds on the defensive end?
I think it's just a mindset we have to have. And so, I challenged them Friday night at halftime to not give up another defensive rebound, and they did it. And then we spoke on Saturday and kind of talked about maybe some new ways that we could keep that fresh on their brain, things and ways to hold them accountable for it. And they seem to be okay and on board with those ways. And I think just keeping it fresh in their mind, it's just a want to. Boxing out is a skill, going and getting a rebound is a want. And we have plenty of kids that are talented enough to go get them. It just has to be on the forefront of their brain, and I think it was this weekend, and they did a great job with it.
You touched on your first answer, trying to beat these high-quality teams that are maybe ahead of you in the RPI rankings, and you've been a part of successful programs that have turned that corner in the past in your career. What are the keys to not only taking care of business in games you should win, but to getting wins against high-quality teams?
I think it's just learning how to take every possession like it's your last possession, and within that possession doing everything correctly. And that just takes some experience. Like we still have quite a few pieces that are still learning how we want to play both offensively and defensively, and so some things have just not become habitual to these kids, and it's just repetition in practice, repetition in games, learning through film, and just really focusing on the details, hitting screens, not undercutting drivers, having better spacing, diving on time, are some things offensively that I think we've got to get better at. And defensively, it's all about positioning. And so when you're still not 100% sure about where you want to be, it just hasn't become instinctual to some people yet. And so we just have to keep plugging along and keep going to work every single day and helping those things become more instinctual and take some of the thinking out of this game for them.
I know you talked about her after the game yesterday, but Kaitlin Morrison has to be talked about again. Coming off the injury a year ago, it's been so good to see her back on the court. Just what have you seen from her of late, and how can she help you the rest of the way?
I think her confidence is just growing. I think she's figuring some things out within the offense and the defense. And I think, she's been shooting the ball better of late. Her conference numbers have been better than the way she started shooting. And she's just getting more aggressive. And I think a lot of it comes with her just feeling more comfortable on the floor. And that's when we talk, that's what she says. She's just feeling more comfortable. And that's part of this. As they learn the system, you get more and more comfortable. You pick up more and more things. As your brain starts to process and get comfortable with things, you can pick up new things. And I think that she's starting to make that progression, similarly to like how Grace Hale started the season last year, and then by this time in the season, she was starting to figure some things out too. And I'm really excited to watch her kind of continue to grow over this year and see what she can do in her year number 2 next year.
You mentioned Grace Hales, and she's to the point where she's knocking on the door of the 1,000-point milestone. She's been such a consistent player, playing every game of the last 4 seasons. Just what have you seen in terms of what she's brought to the table as a senior this year?
I mean, she's bringing great leadership and just consistency. I mean, she's a very consistent shooter. She's learning to play off of her shot fake. She's getting better defensively. So she's just brought consistency and I think a calmness to her game normally. That kind of helps settle us down. I mean, it feels good when you're out on the court. You know, basically, if you can get a kid an open shot, she's going to make it probably 2 out of 3 times, and that's, where Grace Hales is on wide open catch and shoot threes. So she brings a lot to the table, and it's been fun watching her progress.
In the short time we've been in the Missouri Valley Conference, the improvement of women's basketball in the conference has been tremendous. Even for the time you've been the head coach from a year ago to now, what's led to the jump across so many teams getting better in the conference?
When you talk to the other coaches, they feel like the teams have matured, like they're playing with juniors and seniors. The other piece I think is that probably 3 or 4 years ago there was quite a bit of change amongst coaching staff. So now you're looking at a team like Bradley who's in year 4 with Andrea. You're looking at a team like Illinois State who's in year 3 with Kristen. And I think you've hired good coaches and they're getting into year 3s and 4s where they're really starting to get things solidified within how they want to play. And they're good coaches and their teams are going to be good for a long time.
Speaking of improvement, Loyola's matched their win total from a year ago.
Kate's another one that's improved.
It's a big game on Friday night. What do you expect from the Ramblers?
A lot of what we've seen. It's going to be really physical. They've got a strong post presence with Allison Day, and obviously they've got really talented wings with Ellie Rice and Abby O'Connor. And a great shooter. So, I mean, they've got a lot of weapons. And so it's going to be very similar to what we saw last night. I think Bradley's got weapons all over the floor, and it'll be good for us. We're going to take a chance this week to learn from the Bradley game, and we're going to get to go right back out on the floor and see if we can fix some mistakes that we made and make it, come out with the result we would like on Friday night.
There she is, the head coach, Mary Evans. It's two teams that have had some good battles over the years, and both teams much improved from last season. Should be a good one here at the Arc at 6 o'clock. This has been Valpo Basketball Weekly, brought to you by Tire Barn Warehouse. And as always, for all the latest in Valpo Athletics, check out valpoathletics.com. Valpo Basketball Weekly is sponsored by Tire Barn Warehouse. For all major brand tires, wheel alignments, and more, visit Tire Barn at 451 West Northland Drive, Valparaiso. Tire Barn installs more than 3 million tires a year. How about your next set? Visit www.tirebarn.com.